What is going on, everyone? It is your shaman, your sister in spirit, and your friend, Alicia Dunn here, with one of our aspirants. Hi, Safiya.
Love and light, sis. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I'm good too. I'm good too. Just enjoying the sunset a little, taking some
Oh,
breeze outside.
nice. I can feel it. I can feel your enjoyment of it.
Yeah, just nice soft breezes, sun going down, sky kind of orange. You know how
Oh,
it goes.
beautiful. So I can see that we have some people who are on. I would love to see you all drop some comments in so that way we can say hi. So nice to see and to have you all here. Happy to see you, friend. We are here to have a nice little discussion with Safiya. As all of you know, on
Sure.
Wednesdays, we have been featuring the aspirants in the aspirant agency, and we just have a special person here today. So, with all that being said, let's get into it. What's going on, Safi? What's your story? Talk to the people.
All right. Peace and love, everybody. Thanks for having me. What's my story? My story is that I am a light worker, and I've been doing light work since I have become aware of myself. Um, my original aspiration really was to be a zoologist. I love animals, but I'm very squeamish about blood and worms, so it didn't work out that way. I remember one of my teachers in secondary school coming to me and saying, maybe I should consider something in psychology or sociology because my friends tended to come to me whenever they had something on their mind, something weighing heavily on them. They tended to come to me. So I've always been good with people and giving them a listening ear, maybe some words of comfort. I'm a mother of one. I have a 5-year-old daughter. I've been practicing social work professionally, psychology therapy professionally for about 20 years, working specifically with at-risk groups. At-risk meaning, well, in our country, I'm in Trinidad and Tobago. In our country, at-risk would be persons facing domestic violence, commercial sex workers, persons dealing with sexually transmitted diseases, young people living in institutions, and inmates in institutions as well. So I've been in this work for since my 20s. I don't want to say how old I am now, but it's been a while. I've been doing this for a while, and it feels like who I am. It's not work really, it's just me living my purpose and being here doing what I've been sent to do. So that's my story.
I love it. I love it. I love your work. It is so I love that you said I'm a light worker because it everything that you do feels like light. It makes me feel lighter. Like
Ashe.
it's so delicious. Okay. So,
Yeah.
and I love that you said what my aspiration was back then was to do zoology. So, my question is what is your aspiration now? What are you do? Yeah.
Well, my aspiration now is to continue doing what I'm doing, but what I want to do is expand it to creating a safe space, more than just a listening ear, but an actual space. Where I live right now, I'm outside. Lots of trees. Let me just give you a little view of the
Ooh.
mountain vibes. This is where I am, out here in the bush, and it's very serene. The birds in the morning, it's beautiful, and it helps me when I have it's good for me to live in this space. So what I want to do is create some space that others can come. They can come and they can talk about whatever is weighing on them. Specifically, trauma and traumatic experiences is the area I tend to focus on, simply because of the fact that when we think about trauma, we think about big things, but trauma could really be a series of little things over time that really start to wear away at your personality, wear away at your strengths, and you end up to a point where you're not able to function optimally. So it's really about sifting through that, finding out where exactly where it would have all begun, and building a person up to come back to the point of optimal functioning. So my aspiration right now is really creating a safe space for anybody who needs it.
Mm, thank you. Yeah. I love that you as soon as you were talking about trauma, right? I was thinking I want to ask you what trauma is, and then you just like led right into it, you know? You led right into that concept of like we do sometimes conceptualize trauma as these like ginormous events, and we
And it
don't.
could be,
Right.
but a lot of times it's the little things.
Right. Yeah. And to be connected to that and to know like sometimes it really is just little things that just keep happening over and over and over again, and how it shifts your responses and your identity. And I love that.
Well, to
Sweetie.
answer your question about trauma in particular, um, when you think about trauma, in terms of those little things, there's really different types of trauma, but generally, trauma is really a response to something that would have disturbed somebody, that would have been um, harmful, either emotionally or physically in some way. And the way that we respond to that emotionally or physically sometimes, it's that is the what we call the trauma. Now, some people go through life and they have a bad experience, but they don't necessarily have any trauma coming out of it. So trauma doesn't affect everybody, but what trauma is, to identify it, is really the response, that emotional response people may have towards something that was really stressful or disturbing to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you. So what is your medicine? Like, you work with trauma, like what does that look like for people that might be interested in working with you?
Um, well, what the first thing we have to understand is that there are different types of trauma, right? There's acute trauma, and acute trauma has to do with a one-time event. You were in a car accident, you witnessed a murder, or you witnessed a mugging. You know, the response that you get from that, the shakes, everything that happens to you physiologically and even emotionally, you call that acute trauma. It's not post-traumatic stress, but post-traumatic stress can be triggered from having that acute trauma response. Post-traumatic stress is really a mental illness that is surrounding that surrounds trauma. And then you have um, complex traumas, which is what we spoke about, which is those little things that would have happened, and usually they have to do with your relationships. They are things that would have happened in your relationships that would have affected you in a particular way. And then you have trauma like what we call chronic trauma, which is, for example, an ongoing situation. For example, somebody living with illness, with illness over a long period of time. That would be considered a chronic trauma situation, or somebody who is in a domestic violence situation where over time they are being abused constantly, or they're being put in situations where they feel unsafe. That is also so. For me, in terms of the medicine I offer, it's really about identifying the type of trauma, um, and going from there, identifying what are the physiological responses that you're getting. Because some people, it might be headaches, it might be nausea, it might be sleeping a lot, it might be not sleeping at all. So there might be heart palpitations, heart racing. So you'll have the physical symptoms, and then you have the emotional symptoms: numbing out, not being able to be in touch with emotions or in touch with other people's emotions, just putting up this block, being angry all the time. I could have, and it all depends on what is the trigger for the trauma. Sometimes you feel angry, you feel as if you should have done something differently in the situation, or that it even happened at all. So it's really going through the list of emotions that goes along with trauma, and also the list of physical effects that goes along with trauma, and really getting into how that affects your everyday functioning. And depending on what is happening, then we would go into different techniques. Trauma, as you and I know, sometimes gets locked in your body. So you might be feeling pains. You have tightness in your chest, tightness in your stomach. So it's really about pinpointing being in tune with your body as well in terms of treatment or intervention. It's really being in tune with your body to really locate where that trauma is. And depending on where it is, there would be different techniques that we could use. We have the usual traditional ones: journaling, meditation is very, very big for me because it allows you to really quiet. Sometimes what you present as the issue isn't really the issue. Sometimes it's something below that. So it's only in quieting your mind and really giving your thoughts an opportunity to flow freely, then you're able to identify exactly what is happening. So my medicine really is a myriad of things, all depending on what you are presenting as a client. My basic thing though is to start wherever you are. So wherever you are, we start from there and then we work towards whatever to bring you back to optimal functioning.
Oh, I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. And like the next question that I have is like, what are the symptoms of this medicine? And you kind of like touch base on it a little bit. So were there any like other symptoms that you were thinking of that like maybe if a client's like, oh, okay, so like maybe I'm having some pain and that's not explainable, or like what are some of the other symptoms that might come in?
It really has to do with your relationships. That's one of the biggest ways that trauma. I mean, the obvious ones. If you were part of a war, or some terrorists, you were kidnapped, something like that. They are the obvious ones, as we say, and there are particular interventions that you do with that. That is, where you deal with the event. You talk about the event, but when there are a series of little things happen, what we look for is patterns. The way that you would interact in your intimate relationships, the way that you interact in your work relationships. What are your boundaries like? Are they really, really rigid? Are they really, really porous? So just the way that you walk through the world is going to say or indicate if it's a trauma response or not. And the way that trauma really affects us is in our ability to function. Because if we are numbing out, then we're not able to empathize with our children, we're not able to empathize with our lovers because we're not in tune, we're not allowing ourselves to feel particular emotions. You know, if you're having palpitations all the time, that could easily go into anxiety, it could go into depression. So sometimes our trauma response is tied into other mental breakdowns, so to speak. So you might be presenting with depression, but where is the depression stemming from? Is it stemming from something that would have happened in your childhood? Is it stemming from something that you would have experienced? Bullying is something that traumatizes people. So
Mm,
imagine a child being bullied at school, a child being bullied in your neighborhood. Imagine being bullied in your workplace. You wake up in the morning, you have to go to work, and you have all this anxiety. You don't want to go to work because you're thinking about all the different things, and you're just frozen. Fight or flight is also a response to trauma. So really and truly, if you want to know if you need to have trauma transmuted, it depends on how you're interacting in your relationships. And so long as you're not comfortable with the way that things are, or those that you care about mostly, or those that you interact mostly and getting the best of you, then more than likely an intervention is needed.
I love that.
I want to touch a little bit too on childhood and
Please,
childhood trauma.
please.
Now, childhood trauma is big because it's childhood trauma often leads into chronic or complex trauma because of the fact that childhood trauma most times is one of two things happen. It's either it's a betrayal of some sort by the persons who are your caretakers or caregivers. So it's a total erosion of trust. Your ideas about surrounding trust, your ability to trust yourself, the ability to trust others. That is really, it's really compromised because of situations that would have happened in your childhood. Dealing with childhood illnesses, your ideas about life and death, how you feel about it, all of those things. So childhood trauma, I'm particularly interested in because it manifests in adult life.
Mm.
A lot of us are children walking around with hurts from things that happened long years ago, long, long years ago. Some of it you can't even remember. That's another thing too. Sometimes you have a response and you don't know why. Why every time I get this smell, my heart races? Why every time I hear this song, I feel to cry? and you might have no recollection of what, which is why meditation and going into those, and why meditation is a big part of the technique. And there are different types of meditations as well, depending on what is happening with you, but really that quieting of the mind is what gives you the opportunity to tap into what's really going on.
Okay.
Yeah. So trauma is really know thyself. It's a lot of know thyself work. It's a lot of self work. The self work that we do is trauma we healing. It's trauma that we healing when we doing all this,
Yeah.
getting into ourselves and self care. What's the reason for that? It's because somewhere along the line we weren't cared for in the way that we needed to be. So it's become very important now to do it, because to not do it, our functioning, our ability to love openly and freely, and to be the best that we can be in relationships, and to be able to communicate with those in relationships with us, because we might be going through something, but take into consideration those around you might be going through things as well. So your ability to empathize, your ability to sympathize, your ability to identify with, your ability to show compassion for, all these things are directly associated with your healing of trauma and transmuting of those energies. So a lot of times when you see we having troubles in our relationships, it's really because it's something going on with us or with our that other person that isn't healed. Because if we are healed, we're able to be a lot more compassionate towards one another, a lot more open, a lot more honest with ourselves and with those who we care about. So it's in transmuting trauma, it's not just yourself that you're helping, or just not ourselves that we're helping, but we're also helping all those around us as well. Because we're a better us. We're giving the world a better us. So yeah,
Yes.
light work.
Yes. 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 Chelsea
Light
on
work. It's
YouTube
light
said
work.
light work medicine. I love
Light
that.
work. It's light work. Think about a candle. If you light a candle and then you take that candle and you light another and another and another, light work. So when your light is lit, you're able to illuminate others. So when you heal your trauma, sometimes you're healing your entire family, you're healing your community, you're healing your relationships. It's not just for you. That's the beauty of it.
It is beautiful.
Yeah.
So for people who are interested in working with Safi, okay, with Safiya, that that specializes in trauma transmutation, you want to head to this link here. It's calendly.com / the aspirant agency, and you will see the link to schedule with Safiya. Um, so much amazing, grounded work that you provide for people. You know, I I'm excited to get together with you and to
For
talk about
sure.
some of these
For
things that
sure. For sure.
I don't remember, but my responses, I can feel them happening, and it always makes me wonder. The one thing that I did want to touch on that you said that I thought was really, really cool is people's inability to empathize with other people. You know, that can be such like an overwhelming thing where it's like I just don't get it. Like I don't get it. I don't get you. I can't comprehend it. And it's like wow. And so how some people can get identified with that. Like
Yeah.
I'm just not a person who understands. Like I just don't get people. I just and it's like wait a second. Anybody can learn empathy, you know? And like maybe you can't empathize with people because of something that happened to you. So like
That's
why don't we like
exactly,
dig into
exactly,
this?
exactly,
Oh,
exactly. And that's
ooh.
why that's why it's important to understand, because sometimes when we think trauma, you're thinking, oh, this big event, an earthquake, a fire, and yeah, those are valid too, and those are the easier ones to deal with because you can easily identify them, But if you're working somewhere, or you go to the marketplace, or you go somewhere and somebody just irritating the shit out of you for no reason, what is that? What is that? What is that tied to? What is that tied to? So so that's the beauty of trauma transmutation as well. You really have an opportunity to look at yourself. You
Yeah.
have an opportunity to do a lot of self-assessment, a lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-evaluation, and then you learn how to communicate that to those around you, so that as you go through your process, others are able to empathize with you as well. Because it's one thing if because of what is happening with you, you're not able to empathize with others. But we know sometimes we're going through shit and people just can't relate to us as well. And sometimes it's because we are not able to explain to them what's happening with us. So how do I know what's going on in your heart? It's your heart, it's your mind. So a big part of the responsibility is really us to convey to others what is happening. And that's a big part of the transmutation as well, to be able to identify it, articulate it, get it out. And then when you get it out, then you're able to take your power back, because it's no longer that thing under your chicken wing, just chicken, chicken, chicken.
Ah, oh my gosh.
You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. It's only gonna work. Um, and especially particularly with childhood trauma as well. Childhood trauma plays out in our own parenting, in the way we parent, in the way we caretake. So you don't want to be sending that over generations, upon generations, upon generations. So if you're able to heal it, then the way that you interact with your own children or those that you're responsible for, it's entirely different. And so that hurt isn't it because it could be contagious, eh? It could
Yeah.
be contagious. Trauma
Yeah.
could be contagious. So you really don't wanna be spreading those trauma germs. Yeah. So you're able to get into that.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yes. She is dropping gems, isn't she? She's amazing. You guys have
Love and light
yes.
to everybody who's listening, man. Good vibes.
It has been it's been so much fun just hanging out with you. I just you speak so clearly, and
Thank
it
you.
doesn't feel like, oh, like wait, what is it like this? Like everything from what I can hear so clear. Your medicine is clear, the symptoms of your medicine, there it's just so expansive and vast, and I love how I everybody can relate to these symptoms, you know. So, you know, your medicine is for everybody, and is that
Yeah.
that possibility for that. Is there anything else that you would like to share with the audience?
Yes,
Any
there's one thing else I'd like to share.
yeah.
Um, it's important to know that even though this is my specialty, I too am human and I too have my own traumas that I am constantly working on. And sometimes um, there's a power dynamic between the person disseminating the medicine and the person in need of the medicine. And that can be off putting sometimes because it's me telling you about you. And I just want to emphasize that it's not that at all. What I do is facilitate a process. It's not me trying to tell you how to live your life, it's me facilitating whatever choices you decide to make. It's really about your empowerment. So I'm just here to offer that light, but the light is going to be yours. When I take my candle and I light yours, that flame is your flame. So always, I just want that to be out there as well, that it's not a imbalance of power. The power is really with you, and you're coming into a situation when you're interacting with me, you're coming into a situation where more or less I'm offering the guidance, but you call the shots. You determine where we go and how far we go, because trauma is not something that you can transmit overnight, and you don't want to push people, because sometimes if I am doing all the guidance, then I could be doing more harm than good. So it's really whatever you are ready to deal with, whatever you're brave enough to face. I'm all here for it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Do you have a consultation process? Like what does your process look like for people that might be interested? Like, I want to reach out, but I don't really know. Obviously, first you're going to go ahead and click on that link, like to go to Calendly. And then do you have a consultation? Do you just get
Yes,
straight
we
into
have
it?
there's a free consultation. You just click on the Calendly and you book your appointment. And so long as of course, when I see it, I have that session with you. There are specific days and times that's on the Calendly as to when I'm available. And so you just book your appointment and we take it from there.
Nice. Do you suggest multiple sessions? Do you just do single sessions? Like, what does that look like?
It all depends on the client. It all depends on the person. However, as I did say before, trauma isn't something that is dealt with overnight. So, but I am only going to go as far as you want to go, as the client, as the person seeking my medicine. You know, it's not the kind of medicine where it's better open your mouth, force it down your throat. It's not that kind of medicine. It's not that kind of medicine. It's really about how much you are willing to take and how far you're willing to go, because we want to make sure that your mental well being is always intact. So we don't want to push. Um, you know, I've seen situations where people start with me and we get to a point and it's really scary to move forward. And I know that if they move forward, it's going to be a big threshold to cross over, but they're not ready yet. And I just have to pat down and wait. As the transmuter, as the therapist, you know, I cannot push if you're not willing to be pushed.
Yeah.
So it's a love thing. It's gentle. I'm going to be gentle with you, and it's really where you want to be in your life.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Please, everyone, for those of you that have been here who are watching, spread the word. The aspirants are here with so much love and so much light and gentleness and kindness, and with and realness, you know? Like we're real people who are taking our work, taking our education and applying it to those who are wanting to grow and to heal. And yeah, Safiya, you are just,
Yeah, man.
you're so phenomenal. I'm just so grateful
Thank
to,
you so much, sis. I
yeah.
appreciate you. And everybody who's been listening, well, I sure you're realizing that it's getting dark around me because I'm sitting outside and the sun is going down.
Yes, we just got to watch the sunset with you.
Yeah, so this is the vibe. This is the vibe, and I'm really wanting people to come and experience this safe space, because sometimes that's all we need. Somewhere safe to say what's really in our hearts, what's really in our minds. Just a safe space. And there's no judgment, non judgmental attitude, non judgmental practice. So you just come and say whatever is on your heart, because this is the age of Aquarius. Eh? We are all transitioning, we are all evolving. So we have to be gentle with each other. So, gentle medicine.
Yes. Shout out to Chelsea. Hey, please spread the word. It's always so nice to see you here. Thank you for showing up. For the Facebook users who are here, I love you all. You're all so wonderful. I think that's, I mean, do I have to end anything? Is that it? You're all wonderful, period.
Much love and light and darkness. Sometimes we have to tap into our dark side as well. So love, light, and darkness to Alicia and the whole SteamYard family. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Bye.